Okay, good evening. Today is the last day of August, August 31st, 2016. The time is 7:02 p.m., and this is the Hingham Zoning Board of Appeals. These proceedings are being recorded by the board and also by HCAM. The first item on our agenda is Avalon Hingham Shipyard 2, 319 Lincoln Street. Notice of project change after issuance of a comprehensive permit pursuant to 760 CMR section 56.05 sub 11. Who do we have here for the applicant?
Good evening. Michael Roberts with Avalon Bay Communities. I have with me Julia Wynyard with Avalon Bay Communities as well, and Steve Schwartz with Goulston and Stores. We appreciate your time this evening, this summer evening. As you had mentioned, we're here to request for insubstantial change for our proposed development at the Hingham Shipyard, as outlined in a letter dated August 16th from Goulston and Stores. What we thought we'd do this evening is briefly just kind of review what those changes, proposed changes are. I have Ed Bradford who will give a brief presentation from the architectural team. I can tell you just the origin of these changes were in an effort to continue to work with our neighbors, particularly those across from Amesbury in Bradley Woods, who we met with on several occasions, and we're looking at sight lines in particular as it relates to their residences and our proposed building. So we spent some time with them, we spent some time with the architectural team, and they came up with some proposed changes that we think addresses some of those concerns and maintains the proposal as it was approved. We also, in hardlining our drawings, determined we had a sidewalk that was on someone else's land. So we have a fix for that as well. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ed Bradford from the architectural team, who can give you an overview. Thanks. Yep.
I have hard copies as well, so let me get those out to you guys. Do you mind just passing them?
Okay, good evening, everyone. So we have a series of exhibits to walk through this request for insubstantial change, as Michael just described. And this first exhibit compares on the top the Uss Amesbury Drive elevation, on the top the elevation that was approved as part of the comprehensive permit, and then contrasting with that on the lower part of the exhibit, the proposed elevation, the proposed change. So our proposed design for the Amesbury elevation has always been to propose a 4-story elevation that would transition in scale from the taller 5-story parts that we described at prior hearings. And the two main reasons for that transition in scale were one, to reflect the scale of the surrounding shipyard. So as you can see to the right of the proposed building, existing Avalon 1, 3-story building. So the goal was always to make a transition in scale from other portions of the proposed design that were 5 stories to a lower 4-story building along Amesbury, and then again to relate to the architecture and scale of the surrounding shipyard heights and architecture in the shipyard. And then also importantly, being directly across the street from the Bradley Woods neighborhood, the goal with this transition in scale from 5 stories to 4 along Amesbury was to reduce impacts, visual, shadow, and otherwise impacts to the Bradley Woods neighborhood. So that was our original concept of our design, and in the current elevation, the elevation shown on the bottom, really the design concept stands. We think by reducing, as you can see, the elevation from 4 stories to primarily 3 stories along the Amesbury frontage, we think we just reinforce the ideas that I just outlined. So again, we're looking at a relationship of transitioning this time from 5 stories to 4 and then down to 3 stories along Amesbury. And again, you can see the relationship of now a 3-story building, existing 3-story building just to the right, which is, again, the Avalon 1 building. So we think same concept, same approach as we described to you at prior hearings, but we think reinforced with this reduction in height. So impacts to the adjacent neighborhood, the Bradley Woods neighborhood, would be further reduced. Visual impacts, shadow impacts, and the like that we discussed at prior hearings. So we are not proposing any change to the unit count with this modification. In the comprehensive permit, we proposed, as you know, 190 units. That would remain. 190 units is proposed in this adjustment. But we did need to make some adjustments really within the footprint of the building for the most part, if you will, because of course by eliminating the units along the 4th story, along Amesbury, we, with the goal of maintaining that 190 unit count, needed to make some adjustments within the footprint of the building. And primarily we did that by adjusting the unit mix. So this chart shows that change. The top row being the unit mix that was approved in the comprehensive permit, and then the row below showing the proposed adjustments. So looking at the total column under the 1 bedroom, you can see what we've done. In the comprehensive permit, we had 67 one-bedrooms. We're proposing a slight increase in the total of 1-bedrooms to be at 70 one-bedroom units. And then you can see the adjustment in the 2-bedrooms, where we had 104 2-bedroom units in the comp permit. We're at 101. So that's simply an adjustment to try to gain some space really, within the box of the floor plan in order to gain these units back, so we settle back again at the total 190 unit count. There are no changes proposed within the 3-bedroom unit mix. They stay at 19. They are not impacted by this change. And we have a couple renderings here. These are taken from vantage points that we have shown you prior prior meetings. So you can see, I think, here the transition. This happens to be.
Do you mind just dimming the lights? Or?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
So this shows a view. We're on Amesbury now, quite near the intersection with Route 3A. And again, this is a vantage point that, and a rendering that we've shown you before. And here you can see now with the adjustment on the revised design, a transition from the 4-story element fronting on Route 3A down to the 3-story element that fronts on USS Amesbury Drive. And here you can see almost a kind of seamless now connection to the buildings beyond the ship in the shipyard. So I think, again, a strengthening of that concept of transitioning from taller buildings down to the neighborhood in the broader shipyard. Now we're looking back in the southerly direction, back towards 3A. You can see in the foreground existing Avalon 1 building. That's the existing 3-story building that I showed you in the elevation. And again, the proposed change there on the left. So again, a 3-story building matching exactly the height of the adjacent existing building. Again, we think a seamless connection in scale. You can see in this view, again, we've maintained the same setback that we discussed in prior meetings, so quite a generous landscape buffer in front of the buildings that will, again, sort of reduce the impacts on the adjacent Bradley Woods neighborhood. And then finally, I think this is the last exhibit to describe the changes, is a change in the sidewalk along USS Amesbury. This is what Michael mentioned in the introduction. You can see the blue line is actually the property line. So the red represents the sidewalk in the comp permit design. So as Michael said, not on the property of the project. So this change simply takes that sidewalk and moves it. You can see the adjustment in the green sidewalk, moves it towards the building. So we think pretty minor change. The setback from the curb to the building remains the same, and I think it probably provides an opportunity for that landscape buffer that I just showed in the rendering. But otherwise, really pretty same as far as circulation goes on this edge. Happy to take any questions.
Turn on the lights, please.
Can I just ask, whose property was it? Whose property was it?
The Hershey's, the Sea Chain Marina.
Okay. Are you gonna be able to, like, landscape that and grass it and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's actually some existing trees there that
Yeah.
I think fall within that, so we're going to be able to work with it.
All right.
Yep.
Did you want to discuss the plantings, the trees, as part of this?
Yes, as part. As part of our original design, we had called out for planting trees along Amesbury. There was a specific caliber and
3 inches and 14 to 18 feet.
yeah, 3-inch caliper trees, 14 to 18 feet in height. And we agreed to increase the size of those trees. To 4-inch caliper, they'll be 16 to 22 feet. So.
So that's the extent of the presentation as far as the changes that are being requested. We did include as part of the presentation an update on the traffic mitigation, which I sent a couple weeks ago, an update as well. So happy to run through that with you if that's something that you'd like to hear.
Why don't we deal with this first, and then we can hear that. Have we received any written comments from neighbors or abutters?
We did. We received 2 letters of support from abutters on Juniper Road.
And have you received any communications from abutters that you wanted to submit as part of the record?
Those were the only ones.
Okay. Any comments? No? No. Does anyone here wanted to comment on this? They're going to pull the mic over for you, 1 second.
Good evening. My name is Carlos da Silva. I am speaking as a citizen, but I'm also a member of the school committee. My question is, what is the expectation of when this will be done? And how many students are we looking into bringing to the schools, more or less?
So, well, that's an important question. It doesn't relate to the changes. And I want to, at this point, limit the questions to the changes. We're going to consider that. And then if you'd like, we can have broader questions. But what you're asking is does not pertain to the modifications that are being proposed. Okay, thank you.
Just keep that in consideration, please.
Anyone else? So in terms of the relocation of the pedestrian sidewalk, what I'm seeing is that there's no adverse impact on safety or flow of either vehicles or persons. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Yep.
And the reduction in height, which is leading to the changes in composition, which are pretty minor, there is no change in the number of affordable units, as well as no change in the absolute number of units.
Correct.
And Emily, am I correct that the count the DHCD makes is not dependent on the number of bedrooms, but it's the number of units?
Correct.
Okay. I really see nothing here that gives me concern, nothing here that would trigger a finding that this was a substantial change. concerns?
No, I agree. It seems relatively minor.
So I believe that procedurally, our step would be to have a vote finding that the proposed project changes are not substantial changes. Are you looking for anything in addition further than that? Okay. So then I would accept the motion that the proposed changes to the project as proposed by the applicant are not substantial changes, provided that they are done consistent with the documents and representations made at this hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved.
Thank you.
Right,
Next,
so,
the
yeah.
traffic study.
Oh, we can, yeah, maybe when we get to the intersections.
So just to give an update on all the various off-site mitigation measures for the project, we are making good progress on all of them. The Massdot jurisdiction intersections, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all along the Route 3A corridor, we did have a meeting with Massdot in the district office in Taunton on July 6th, where we went down. We met with their permits engineer and their design team. They were very receptive to the proposed changes that we were proposing along the corridor. When we met with them, we talked about what the process was going to be going forward with those changes. We all felt that going ahead with the environmental notification form with the state was the next logical step, so that all the state agencies could comment on the project, because we did have that traffic threshold that we need to go for the environmental notification form, which was filed on July 28th. The comment period for the ENF closed yesterday, and we're expecting to get a certificate or determination the first week of September. Once we have that certificate in hand, we would then go forward with advancing the design plans with the state and filing an access permit, which would have all those proposed modifications attached to it for a more detailed engineering review and approval process. But we've also advanced the additional land survey that was needed, both at locations 4, which is Bradley Woods Drive, location 9, Faultler and Beale Street, which is the town-owned intersection. We're doing geometric improvements, and we also got some additional land survey at location number 8, which is the MBTA intersection, just so that we can start getting our base drawings together. We've also conducted much more detailed inspections of the signal equipment and communications equipment along the Route 3A corridor to really start troubleshooting how to fix the coordination issue that we see out there. And I know that, one other thing, the road safety audit for location number 5 has been scheduled for Wednesday of next week. We did engage an independent sub-consultant who has reached out to the town, all the various departments, and Massdot to schedule that. And I think Julie can probably go into more detail about discussions with the MBTA.
Sure, so for intersection 8, there's 2 components, and I did give an update in the progress report that I sent, but subsequent to that, there's new information. So after initial conversations with Greystone, who represents the T on this matter, we were quoted a value of the parking spots that we would have been taking away that was quite high, between $200,000 and $400,000, which we felt was cost prohibitive for that scope of work. Subsequent to that, we did ask them to come back to us with a licensing fee just to complete the intersection work. That number was far more reasonable, and so they're in the process of drafting a licensing agreement for us, so we will be able to proceed with that scope. I think that's it.
Do you have anything that you can report to respond to the question that was asked, just in terms of your overall sense of timing, and anything, there was a question about expectation with respect to school students. I don't think anything at this point would have changed from the hearings, but from the prior hearings, but if you've got anything to add, now would be a good time.
As it relates to timing, there's a lot of moving pieces, but what we would hope is that we could begin site work demolition by the end of this year. If we're able to do that, that would bring us to probably first deliveries of apartments in the spring of 2018, and then we would hope to be complete probably by the end of the year. Does that sound about right? Yeah. So that would be our expectation on timing. Obviously subject to wrapping up a lot of the things, including traffic mitigation. As it relates to school-age children, I apologize. I don't have off the top of my head those numbers. I know we can follow up with it's a calculation based on bedroom mix, and we have phase one we can use. So
my expectation with the proposed change that we've now just approved is that with fewer multi-room apartments,
correct,
there would likely be fewer school children. I'm not attempting to quantify it, but
correct,
the direction is downward in terms of the impact on schools.
Correct. Yep.
Right, minus 3 2-bedrooms.
Right.
Yeah, I remember them testifying as to what phase one was, but I can't remember what the numbers were. So we can get that information to them.
Emily, what is the town's requirement for the 40B project account in terms of the when a building permit is pulled? Is that what triggers?
On our subsidized
Yes.
housing inventory, actually with the filing of the comprehensive permit, they
Yep.
were added to the subsidized housing
Right.
inventory. They'll remain there so long as the project doesn't enter into a time lapse.
Okay.
The first time that would become possible is if a building permit is not pulled within 12 months of filing of
Right.
the comp permit, so by next May 17th. If one were not to be pulled by then, but it's pulled following week, then the units would be eligible for inclusion again upon issuance of the building permit.
So when are you expecting to obtain or apply for a building permit?
It would certainly be within that time frame. We'd be pulling a demo permit first, and then
Right.
I'd say the beginning of the year there'd be a formal building permit.
Terrific. Thank you. Any other issues that you have for this board?
That's what we have on the agenda, our agenda for tonight.
Okay. Then with that, this item is now concluded on our agenda. We're going
Great.
to move on to the next item. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, well, what about our future schedule?
You done with me?
No, we always need you.
No, I mean, eventually we'll come back.
Yeah.
Riverstone's gonna resume?
We will not immediately, we don't have a date yet.
Right.
They probably will eventually, like later this week. But for you guys, our next regular meeting is September 14th. We have a number of continuations on there and then a handful of new applications.
September 14th,
Yeah,
got it.
that's Wednesday, September 14th. Thursday, September 15th, we have the 230 Beale Street comprehensive permit application opening for the initial property.
Right.
And then September 26th, the Monday evening, is a joint meeting with the planning board, potentially to hear a continued Lincoln building again, a continued modification to the last residential building on the other side of the shipyard that A.W. Carey applied for, and one small change for the brewery, or the distillery up there in the industrial.
Okay. So this month, we've got the 14th, the 15th, and the 26th. Okay.
And that's it.
For September. Okay.
Wait, I need the
26th, which is Monday. Are they all 7 o'clock meetings? Okay, great. Robin, Mario, any other item you'd like to bring before the board? Then I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.